discovered a secret. They are wrong. A secret is something hidden. The truth I found was never hidden. It was merely ignored, buried under layers of comfortable lies the world sells to keep men weak. I call it the 1% rule. It's the principle that forged me. In the world of finance, a brutal arena of numbers and ambition, it took me from nothing into the top 1% of earners. Not with one lucky trade, but with 1,000 disciplined decisions. In the domain of the physical, it is why at 58 years old, my body operates with the strength and vitality of a man half my age. Labs, agility, and power that place me in the top 1% of my peers. I did not arrive here by chance. I clawed my way here, 1% at a time. This book is not my bid for fame. I have no interest in talk shows or bestseller lists. That is their game, a rigged system of validation and hollow praise. This book is a weapon. It was forged in the fires of my own transformation and battle-tested by the 5,000 warriors who have come through the doors of warrior weight loss. I am Horace Dobson. I've been a nurse, a trainer, an entrepreneur. I have seen thousands of men and women trapped in the same loop, asking the same desperate question. Why can't I conquer this weakness? They think the problem is the diet. They are wrong. Every diet works. Keto, paleo, fasting. They are all just different tactics. A tactic is useless without a strategy, and a strategy is useless without the will to execute. The real war isn't on your plate, it's in your mind. That is the problem I solved. The Dobson Mind Shift to Life Shift protocol is not a theory, it is a blueprint for building a warrior. By pairing the relentless logic of the 1% rule with advanced metabolic tools, we have created a process that makes transformation inevitable. This book is short, it is direct, it is practical. It is designed to be absorbed in a single sitting, a concentrated dose of the truth you have been denied. I am not here to hold your hand. I am the scout who has already mapped the battlefield and returned to give you the coordinates. This is my life's work. It is proof. It is the path. Walk it, and you will not just lose 50 pounds. You will gain a level of control you never thought possible. Master this rule in the physical realm, and you will begin to apply it. Everywhere. Your finances, your relationships, your purpose. You will become the architect of your own life. The trail is marked. The choice is yours. Welcome to the war. Welcome to the 1%. Chapter 1. The Weight of Nothing. Leo stared at the number on the scale, 287 pounds. It wasn't just a number, it was a judgment. It was the physical manifestation of every bad decision, every late-night pizza, every skipped workout, every single time he'd chosen comfort over discipline. Most people think failure is a dramatic event, a single catastrophic moment. Leo knew the truth. Failure wasn't a lightning strike. It was a slow, quiet accumulation, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was the extra 1% of garbage he ate each day, the 1% less he moved, compounded over years until he had become this. A man whose reflection he didn't recognize, a stranger in his own skin. His life was a monument to mediocrity, a dead-end data entry job where he was invisible, an empty apartment that smelled of stale takeout, the memory of a woman who had left him, her parting words echoing in his mind. I need a man who is going somewhere, Leo. Not someone who is just sitting there. He'd tried everything the system offered, the bright, cheerful packaging of Weight Watchers, the caveman fantasies of paleo, the complicated science of keto. They all worked for a week or two, but the big, dramatic changes never lasted. Willpower was a finite resource, and his was bankrupt. That night, scrolling through the endless, numbing feed on his phone, an ad stopped him. It wasn't cheerful, it was brutal. A stark black background with a logo that looked like a shield. The words were a gut punch, tired of hand-holding. The system is designed for you to fail. He clicked. There was no talk of journeys or being kind to yourself. There was talk of protocols, missions, and results. It was the website for a place called Warrior Weight Loss. The founder, a man named Horace Dobson, spoke through the text with an authority Leo had never encountered. Most people think success comes from big dramatic changes, the site read. The truth is far less glamorous, but far more powerful. Success comes from small, consistent daily improvements. We call it the 1% rule. Every day you move just 1% closer to your objective. It doesn't sound like much, but compounded over time, it is unstoppable. Leo read about the science, the tools, the transformation stacks. He saw the before and after pictures, not of smiling, happy families, but of men and women who looked like they had been forged in steel. They looked powerful. They looked free. At the bottom of the page was a button. It wasn't a gentle invitation, it was a challenge. Begin assessment. Underneath, in smaller text, this is not for everyone. This assessment determines if you have the mindset required. Answer with 100% honesty. Leo's heart pounded. This was different. This wasn't selling hope. It was demanding commitment. For the first time in years, a flicker of something other than despair sparked within him. It felt like defiance. His finger hovered over the screen. 1%. Could he be 1% better than he was yesterday? He pressed the button. Chapter 2. The Assessment. The questions were brutal. There were 15 of them, each one a scalpel cutting away the fat of his excuses. How do you view failure? How much discomfort are you willing to endure for a significant result? Do you believe you are 100% responsible for your station in life? Leo answered with a raw honesty he hadn't confronted in years. He didn't try to paint a better picture of himself. He laid his weakness bare. When he finished, he hit submit and waited for the verdict. A moment later, the screen refreshed. Tier 2, potential in the rough. You show promise, but your discipline is inconsistent. Our program will forge the mindset you need, but you must be willing to commit fully. If you are ready to stop making excuses, fill out the form. He filled it out. Name, email. A wave of adrenaline and fear washed over him. He had just raised his hand in the middle of a battlefield. 24 hours passed in silence. Leo's initial defiance began to curdle into doubt. Maybe it was a scam. Maybe he'd failed. Then an email notification appeared. The sender was simply Dobson. The email was short, devoid of pleasantries. Subject: the path. Leo, your assessment was mediocre. It revealed a man drowning in inconsistency, waiting for a magical surge of motivation that will never come. Motivation is a feeling. It's a fleeting chemical reaction. It is useless in war. We do not operate on motivation. We operate on clarity. For years, you have been wandering the battlefield without a map. I have the map. I've walked every inch of it, seen every trap, and found the one clear path to victory. I was the scout who zigzagged through failure so that you can march in a straight line. Your problem has never been a lack of options. It has been a lack of a clear objective. Vague goals like lose some weight are a recipe for failure. They are a negotiation with weakness. That negotiation ends now. Your objective is no longer a wish. It is a command objective: lose 50 pounds in 6 months. This is not a wish. It is a measurable, time-bound mission. Every decision you make will now be filtered through a simple binary. Does this move me closer to the objective or further away? That is clarity. Clarity is power. This is not just about aesthetics. Stripping the fat is merely the first phase. We will rebuild you from the cellular level up. We will use NAD+ to refuel your mitochondria, your cellular engines, restoring the energy you lost years ago. We will use glutathione to purge the toxins your body has accumulated, hardening your internal defenses. Weight loss changes how you look in 6 months. This protocol changes how you operate for the next 6 decades. I have seen 2 types of men. The first comes to me with a vague hope. He fails. The second comes with a clear vision. He says, I will lose 50 pounds because I refuse to be the fat father at my daughter's wedding. He succeeds. He doesn't just get to see the wedding, he gains more years with his family. Period. Your journey from mediocrity to dominance begins now, with a 1% shift. Your first directive: 24 hours. 1. Write down your objective, not on a screen, on paper. I will lose 50 pounds by date 6 months from today because your reason. Make the reason real. Make it burn. 2. Drink 1 gallon of water. This is your first test. Do not think. Do not hesitate. Execute. Report back. HD. Leo read the email 3 times. It was the most insulting and inspiring thing he had ever read. There was no room for excuses. It was a simple, clear command. He stood up, found a pen and paper, and for the first time in a long time, he felt the weight of nothing transform into the gravity of purpose. Chapter 3. Scorched Earth, Eliminating Weakness. Leo uncapped a black permanent marker. The paper in front of him felt as significant as a treaty. He hesitated for a moment, the old voice of doubt whispering in his ear. This is stupid. It's just words. Then he remembered Dobson's email. Clarity is power. He pressed the marker to the page, the sharp scent of ink filling the air. I will lose £50 by April 12th, 2026, he wrote, the date exactly 6 months away. He paused, then wrote the second part, the part that mattered. Because I refuse to be invisible anymore. He taped the paper to his bathroom mirror, a declaration of war against the man he saw in the reflection. Then he turned to the second directive, a gallon of water. It seemed simple, almost trivial. By mid-afternoon, he realized it was a physical trial. He felt bloated, constantly needing the bathroom, his body rebelling against the sudden flush of hydration. But he pushed through, glass by glass, until the plastic jug was empty. It was his first victory, a small act of discipline that felt monumental. He opened his email and typed a 2-word reply to Dobson, "Directive complete." The response came in less than 60 seconds. Subject, re the path. Good. Victories are not meant to be celebrated, they are meant to be built upon. You cannot build a fortress on unsecured ground. Your home is not a sanctuary, it is an occupied territory, filled with enemy contraband designed to keep you weak, fat, and compliant. Your willpower is finite. On your worst day, after 12 hours of soul-crushing work, you will not have the energy to fight a battle of discipline against the cookies in your pantry. So you will not fight. You will eliminate the enemy before the battle begins. Your second directive, 3 hours, Scorched Earth Protocol. 1. Arm yourself with 3 trash bags. 2. Kitchen, pantry. Every item containing refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, or processed grains is now contraband. Cereal, cookies, crackers, chips, granola bars, bread. All of it. Do not hesitate. Do not save it for a cheat day. There are no cheat days in war. Put it in the bags. 3. Kitchen, refrigerator, choc freezer, all sugar-sweetened beverages, soda, juice, processed meats, frozen pizzas, ice cream, desserts. All of it. Contraband. 4. Do not donate it. Do not give it to a neighbor. Destroy it. You are severing your attachment to your own weakness. Take the bags to the dumpster immediately. This is not about wasting food. This is about respecting yourself enough to stop eating poison. Your environment must now reflect your objective. When you are done, your kitchen should look like a barracks. Spartan, functional, and ready for war. Report back. HD. Leo's blood ran cold. This was insane. He thought of the money he'd spent. The half-eaten bag of expensive, organic, gluten-free cookies that were his healthy treat. The ice cream he saved for a bad day. He walked into his kitchen and opened the pantry. It was a museum of his failures. A rainbow of colorful packaging, all promising comfort and ease. He reached for a box of cereal, his hand hesitating. This is a waste. Then his eyes caught the note on the mirror from the other room. I refuse to be invisible. He grabbed the box and shoved it into a black trash bag. The sound of the cardboard crunching was a gunshot in the quiet apartment. Then another. The chips, the crackers, the stale Halloween candy. He worked with a cold fury, not allowing himself to think. The refrigerator was next. The sticky residue of a spilled soda, the half-empty jar of jelly, the frozen burrito that had been his dinner for the last 3 nights. It all went into the bags. He was not just throwing out food, he was throwing out habits. He was throwing out the man who was just sitting there. An hour later, it was done. 3 heavy bags sat by his door, monuments to his former life. His cupboards were cavernous, holding only a few cans of tuna, some olive oil, and a bag of rice. His fridge contained mustard, a carton of eggs, and the empty gallon jug. He hauled the bags to the dumpster outside, the weight of them a final, satisfying burden. He let them fall into the darkness, the sound a definitive end. He walked back into his apartment. The air felt different, cleaner. The silence in his kitchen wasn't empty, it was disciplined. He had nowhere to turn for comfort. There was no fallback position. He had cleared the path. He sat down and wrote his report. Ground secured. Chapter 4, Fuel for War, the Protein Mandate. The silence from Dobson lasted for 12 hours. Leo woke up the next morning feeling a strange mix of emptiness and pride. He stared at his barren kitchen. The lack of choice was liberating. There were no decisions to make, no temptations to fight. Just as a low-grade panic about what he would actually eat began to set in, a new email arrived. Subject, the path. Securing ground is the first step. Now you resupply. The system has lied to you about fuel. It has sold you on cheap, addictive carbohydrates that spike your energy and then leave you weak and hungry. It is the fuel of a peasant, not a warrior. From this day forward, you will fuel yourself for battle. Your body is not a pleasure vehicle, it is a weapon. You are not just losing fat, you are preserving and building muscle. Muscle is the engine of your metabolism. It is your armor. Fat is dead weight. Protein builds armor. Your third directive, immediate. The protein mandate. 1. Calculate your mandate. Your protein target is based on your ideal body weight, not your current weight. We build for the man you will become. Your ideal weight is 220 pounds. Your daily mandate is 0.8 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight. Your target is 176 grams of protein. This number is non-negotiable. 2. Procure supplies. Your first meal of the day and every day will begin with a minimum of 30 grams of protein. Your last meal will do the same. Go to the grocery store. Your list is simple. Eggs, chicken breast, lean ground beef, fish. Greek yogurt plain. Protein powder, whey or casein. This is your new arsenal. 3. The first meal. Cook and consume a minimum of 4 eggs immediately. 4. Track everything. Download a calorie tracking app. You will log every gram of protein that enters your body. We do not guess, we verify. Data is ammunition. The system wants you hungry. Protein is the antidote. It is the most satiating macronutrient. It requires more energy for your body to digest, the thermic effect of food. It is the building block of strength. Failing to meet your protein mandate is a mission failure. It is the logistical equivalent of sending a soldier into battle without ammunition. Do not ask what else you should eat. For now, nothing else matters. Focus on the one variable that will forge you. Hit your protein target. The rest is noise. Execute. HD, 176 grams. Leo did a quick search on his phone. A large egg had about 6 grams of protein. He'd have to eat nearly 30 eggs to hit that target. The number was daunting, but it didn't feel impossible. It felt like a challenge. He stared at the number again. Non-negotiable. This was the point where the old Leo would have quit. He would have called it extreme, unsustainable. But the man who had thrown away 3 bags of his own weakness was still in command. He wasn't being asked to feel motivated. He was being given a direct order. He walked to the refrigerator, took out 4 eggs, and cracked them into a hot pan. The sizzle was the sound of action. He ate them standing at the counter, not for pleasure, but for fuel. It wasn't a meal, it was a tactical reload. He downloaded the tracking app and logged the 24 grams of protein. 152 to go. He grabbed his keys. The grocery store, once a minefield of temptation, was now a strategic objective. He walked past the vibrant colors of the snack aisle, his eyes fixed, seeing only the muted packaging of the meat and dairy sections. He was no longer a consumer, browsing for comfort. He was a quartermaster, procuring supplies for the war ahead. Chapter 5, Hydration as a Weapon. Leo pushed his cart toward the checkout. It felt ridiculous, piled high with shrink-wrapped chicken breasts, cartons of eggs, tubs of Greek yogurt, and a 5-pound canister of whey protein that looked like a miniature barrel. It was the cart of a lunatic, a caricature of a bodybuilder. He could feel the eyes of other shoppers on him, their carts filled with a balanced mix of cereal boxes, frozen dinners, and bags of chips. He felt his face flush, the old shame creeping back in. He was a fraud. He chose the lane with the youngest cashier, assuming she'd be the most absorbed in her phone. But as he got closer, he saw she wasn't. She was watching him, a small, curious smile on her face. Her name tag said Maya. Her eyes were bright, and she moved with an easy, athletic grace that made him feel even more cumbersome. He began unloading his items onto the belt, avoiding her gaze, focusing on the black rubber conveyor. "Looks like someone's starting a new mission," she said. Her voice was light, without a trace of judgment. Leo froze, his hand hovering over a package of ground beef. He mumbled something incoherent, a mix of yeah and just getting some things. He felt like an idiot. The old Leo would have made a self-deprecating joke, something about his new crazy diet, inviting her to laugh at him before she could do it on her own. But Dobson's words echoed in his head. Your body is a weapon. Clarity is power. He was on a mission. He wasn't a fat man on a diet. He was a warrior resupplying. He looked up and met her eyes for the first time. "Something like that," he said, his voice clearer than he expected. She scanned the giant tub of protein powder, her eyebrows raising slightly. "Well, good luck with it," she said, and her smile was genuine. It wasn't pity. It wasn't sarcasm. It was respect. The interaction lasted less than a minute. As he pushed his cart away, he felt a strange energy buzzing through him. For the first time in years, a woman had looked at him without contempt or indifference. She had seen the effort, not just the failure. It was a 1% shift in the social fabric of his life, but it felt like an earthquake. He wasn't invisible. Back in his apartment, after the supplies were stored in his Spartan kitchen, he sat down, his mind replaying the moment. That's what this was about. It wasn't just about the 50 pounds. It was about becoming a man who could have that conversation without his heart trying to hammer its way out of his chest. A man who could meet a woman's gaze and not feel like a lesser being. The winner he was meant to be. An email from Dobson was waiting. Subject: The Signal. You have spent your life broadcasting a signal of apathy. Your posture, your choices, your physical form. It all tells the world that you have surrendered. People, especially women, are biologically wired to read these signals. They are repelled by apathy and drawn to purpose. Today you changed the signal. The food you bought was not a random collection of groceries. It was a declaration of intent. It broadcasted discipline. The woman at the store did not see a fat man. She saw a man on a mission. This is why the protocol is absolute. It removes the static of your old life and replaces it with a clear, powerful signal of a man in control. Now we amplify that signal. Your fourth directive, continuous. Hydration as a weapon. 1. The gallon of water was not a one-time test. It is now a daily mandate. It is your new baseline. 2. Carry it with you. The jug is a visible symbol of your commitment. It is a constant reminder of the mission. 3rd, hydration is not passive. It is an active process of flushing out the weakness, the inflammation, the metabolic garbage of your past. It sharpens the mind and prepares the body for the stress of transformation. Your body is over 60% water. By controlling the primary component of your being, you exert control over the whole. Do not fail in this. It is the simplest and most fundamental discipline. Continue the protein mandate. Continue the hydration mandate. Tomorrow we move. HD Leo looked at the full gallon jug on his counter. It didn't look like a burden anymore. It looked like a tool. He thought of Maya's smile and the feeling of being seen. He picked up the jug, the cool plastic firm in his grip, and took a long, deep drink. It was the taste of control. Chapter 6, The First Campaign, Conquering Movement. Leo woke before his alarm. For the first time in memory, it wasn't a groggy, resentful crawl into consciousness. It was a state of alert readiness. He looked at the gallon jug on his nightstand, already a quarter empty from the night before. He looked at the objective taped to the mirror. He was a soldier in a silent barracks, waiting for his orders. The email arrived at 0600 hours, precise and sharp. Subject: The campaign begins. A warrior does not sit and wait for the battle to come to him. He moves, he patrols. He learns the terrain, he owns his territory. For years your body has been in a state of sedentary decay. You have treated it like a prison, not a vehicle. Today you reclaim it. We do not start with a blitzkrieg assault on a gym. The system sells that fantasy, leading to injury, burnout, and failure. We start by conquering the ground beneath your feet. Your fifth directive, daily. The reconnaissance march. 1. You will walk for 60 minutes, not a stroll, not a wander, a march. Your pace should be purposeful. You are not browsing the world, you are surveying your territory. 2. No headphones for the first week. No podcasts, no music, no audiobooks. The objective is not to distract yourself from the discomfort. The objective is to confront it. Listen to your breathing. Feel the protest of your joints. Acknowledge the weakness. This is your starting point, the raw data of your current condition. 3. This is not exercise. Exercise is what people do in a desperate attempt to burn off the poison they ate. This is movement. It is a non-negotiable ritual, like breathing. It is the physical act of moving from who you were to who you will become. A body at rest stays at rest. A body in motion stays in motion. This is the law. Today you change your fundamental state of being. Report back upon completion. HD 60 minutes. It sounded like an eternity. Leo put on the only pair of athletic shoes he owned, their soles still clean from years of neglect. He walked out his front door into the cool morning air, his gallon jug of water in hand. The first 10 minutes were a lie. This isn't so bad, he thought. He felt the momentum, the sense of purpose. The next 20 minutes were a negotiation. A dull ache started in his lower back. His knees, unaccustomed to the load, began to throb in protest. A stitch of pain tightened in his side. The voice of the old Leo began its insidious whisper. You can stop. You've done enough. This is stupid. You're just the fat guy shuffling down the sidewalk. The final 30 minutes were a war. Every step was a conscious act of defiance. His lungs burned, sweat soaked through his t-shirt, a map of his misery. He was acutely aware of every car that passed, every person who glanced his way. He felt exposed, pathetic. He wanted to quit more than he had ever wanted anything. He looked down at the water jug in his hand, the symbol of his new discipline. He thought of Maya's smile, not of pity, but of respect for the attempt. What would she think if she saw him quit now? What would Dobson say? More importantly, what would the man he wanted to be do? The winner wouldn't quit. He pushed his shoulders back, lifted his chin, and focused on the cracks in the sidewalk, one after another. He wasn't walking anymore, he was marching. He was conquering the territory of his own weakness, one painful step at a time. When the timer on his phone finally buzzed, he stumbled to a stop, leaning against a tree, gasping for air. He was drenched, aching, and utterly exhausted. And he had never felt more powerful in his life. He had met the enemy, the pathetic, whining voice in his head, and he had won. He walked the final few blocks back to his apartment, his posture different. He was no longer trying to be invisible. He had earned his space in the world this morning. He sat down, his legs trembling, and typed his report. Territory surveyed. Enemy engaged. Victory secured. Chapter 7. Strategic Recovery. Engineering Sleep. The response from Dobson arrived, not with praise, but with the cold logic of a battlefield commander. Subject, the campaign begins. A victory is meaningless if you cannot consolidate your gains and prepare for the next battle. The amateur celebrates, the professional recovers. The system has sold you another lie, the myth of the hustle. It glorifies sleep deprivation as a badge of honor. It is a lie designed to keep you weak, hormonally imbalanced, and mentally foggy. It keeps you a compliant consumer, too tired to fight back. A warrior understands a fundamental truth. Muscles are not built in the gym, they are built in the dark. Fat is not burned when you are stressed, it is burned when you are at rest. The real work of transformation happens when you are unconscious. Your sixth directive, nightly. The blackout protocol. 1. Engineer total darkness. Your bedroom is not an entertainment center, it is a recovery chamber. An hour before your designated sleep time, the chamber is sealed. All screens, phone, TV, laptop are powered down. They emit blue light, a signal that tells your brain it is midday, crippling your body's production of melatonin. 2. Eliminate light pollution, cover every source of light. The glowing dot on your TV, the charger in the wall, the sliver of streetlight under the door. Your goal is a darkness so complete you cannot see your hand in front of your face. Use blackout curtains or an eye mask if necessary. Light is a drug that disrupts sleep architecture. 3. Lower the temperature. A cool room facilitates a drop in core body temperature, a key trigger for deep sleep. Your chamber should be cool, a cave, not a comfortable nest. This is not about getting more sleep. This is about engineering the quality of your sleep. You are creating the optimal hormonal environment for growth hormone release, cortisol regulation, and cellular repair. Fail here, and you sabotage every other effort. Your march, your protein, your hydration, all are undermined by poor recovery. Tonight, you don't just go to sleep. You go to war against mediocrity, and you win in the dark. HD Leo read the email and scoffed. It felt like pseudo-scientific nonsense, but the protocol was the protocol. That evening, an hour before bed, he powered down his phone and left it in the kitchen. The silence in his apartment was immediate and unnerving. He was used to the endless scroll, the dopamine drip of the digital feed lulling him into a restless stupor. He went to his bedroom and began the work. He unplugged his alarm clock, its red glow now an offending enemy. He taped over the power light on his old television. He hung a thick blanket over his window, plunging the room into an oppressive, inky blackness. He lay down in the cool, silent dark. It felt alien. He was alone with his thoughts, a terrifying prospect. The aches from his morning march returned. The anxieties about his job, his future, his pathetic life, all came rushing in. But without the distraction of a screen, he had no choice but to face them. He focused on his breathing, a slow, steady rhythm. He didn't remember falling asleep. He remembered only waking up. There was no grogginess, no mental fog. He opened his eyes to the same absolute darkness, but his mind felt sharp. It was like a camera lens that had been smudged for years had suddenly been wiped clean. He felt a deep cellular energy he hadn't experienced since he was a teenager. He got out of bed and for the first time didn't stumble. He walked to the kitchen and drank from his water jug. As he prepared his morning eggs, he felt a new clarity. The day ahead didn't feel like a series of obstacles. It felt like a series of objectives. At work, the change was palpable. The endless columns of data that usually blurred into a monotonous haze were sharp and clear. He found 3 critical errors in a report that his supervisor and 2 senior colleagues had missed. He didn't announce it with fanfare. He simply fixed them and sent a quiet email noting the correction. His supervisor, a perpetually stressed man named Peterson, walked over to his cubicle an hour later. "Good catch, Leo," he said, a note of genuine surprise in his voice. "Saved us a headache." It was a small thing, a 1% victory in the corporate world, but it was more recognition than he'd received in the last year. He hadn't just been seen, he had been valuable. He had broadcasted a new signal: competence. That evening, as he prepared for his nightly ritual, the march, the protein, the hydration, he understood. The war wasn't just about his body, it was about his life. And winning in the dark was the secret to winning in the light. Chapter 8. Building the Arsenal, Forging Steel. A week passed, 7 marches, 7 gallons of water, 7 days of hitting his protein mandate, 7 nights of engineered darkness. Leo felt like a different person. The mental fog was gone, replaced by a sharp, focused energy. The constant low-grade ache in his joints had vanished, replaced by the satisfying soreness of muscles being called to duty for the first time in a decade. He had lost 8 pounds. He felt the change, but he didn't see it yet. The man in the mirror was still soft, still undefined. He had purged the weakness, but he had not yet built strength. Phase 1 was complete. He knew what was coming next. The email from Dobson was titled simply, Phase 2. Subject, Phase 2. You have successfully completed the purge. You have cleared the ground, established supply lines, and learned basic reconnaissance. You are no longer a civilian. But you are not yet a warrior. A warrior is a weapon. Right now, you are a dull, heavy blade, useless in a real fight. We are going to change that. We are going to put you in the fire and hammer you into shape. We are going to forge steel. The modern gym is a lie. It is a social club, a fitness center designed for comfort and distraction. It has smoothie bars and Zumba classes and rows of treadmills facing televisions. It is a playground for the weak, designed to make them feel like they are accomplishing something while they achieve nothing. You will not go there. You will find a place of iron and chalk, a place where the only music is the clank of steel and the sound of effort. Look for a place that is intimidating. If you are comfortable walking in, it is the wrong place. Your seventh directive, 3 times per week. The Forge. 1. Secure a membership. Find a real gym. Pay for 1 month. This is your new church. 2. The Protocol. Your workout will be brutally simple. You are not there to experiment or try new machines. You are there to execute. Your mission for the first month is this. Goblet squats, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Push-ups, on your knees if you must, 3 sets to failure. Dumbbell rows, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps per arm. Plank, 3 sets, hold for as long as you can. 3. The log. You will record every set and every rep in a notebook. You are not just lifting, you are collecting data. Your only goal each session is to be 1% better than the last. 1 more rep, 1 more pound, 1 more second on the plank. Fear is now your compass. The gym is the place you fear most, so it is the place you must go. You will feel weak. You will feel exposed. You will feel like an imposter. Good. Embrace it. That feeling is the dull iron beginning to feel the heat of the forge. Every man you see in that gym who commands respect started exactly where you are. Weak, afraid, and determined. This is where boys are forged into men. Do not be intimidated. Be disciplined. Report back after your first session. HD Leo's blood turned to ice. A gym. It was his greatest nightmare. An arena filled with everything he was not. Strong, confident, disciplined. He pictured himself, a soft, clumsy giant, fumbling with weights while lean, muscular men looked on with contempt. The thought made him want to vomit. For a full day, he did nothing. He completed his march, his protein, his hydration, but the fear of the gym paralyzed him. He looked up local gyms online, clicking away from any that had pictures of smiling, happy people in bright studios. He finally found one across town. Iron Temple Gym. The photos were dark, showing peeling paint, old-school equipment, and men who looked like they gargled with gravel. It looked terrifying. It was perfect. He drove there that evening, circling the block 3 times before he could bring himself to park. He sat in his car for 15 minutes, his heart hammering against his ribs. You can't do this. They'll laugh you out of there. He closed his eyes. I refuse to be invisible. He grabbed his water jug, a familiar weight in his hand, and walked toward the door. The moment he stepped inside, the smell hit him, sweat, iron, and chalk. It was the smell of effort. The sound was a symphony of clanging plates and guttural grunts. No one looked up. No one noticed him. Everyone was locked in their own private war. He found a corner, his heart still racing. He picked up a dumbbell for the goblet squats that felt insultingly light, but it was a start. His form was shaky, his knees trembled. He felt a dozen pairs of imaginary eyes on him. But he focused on the protocol, 3 sets, 8 reps. He wrote it down in his notebook. Push-ups on his knees, his arms shaking violently. He managed 6. He wrote it down. Dumbbell rows, planks that lasted a mere 20 seconds. He finished in under 45 minutes, his body trembling, his grey t-shirt soaked black with sweat. As he staggered out the door, he realized something profound. No one had laughed. No one had pointed. In fact, no one had paid him any attention at all. He wasn't the star of their show. He was just another man fighting his own battle. He hadn't been an intruder. He had been a participant. The fear was gone, replaced by a raw, primal sense of accomplishment. He had walked into the fire and hadn't been consumed. He got back in his car, his hands still shaking, and sent his report to Dobson. Iron sharpens iron. The forging has begun. Chapter 9. Fortifying your position. Control your environment. Dobson's reply was waiting for him the next morning. It was, as always, brutally efficient. Subject, Phase 2. Good, you faced the fire. That battle is won. But the enemy does not only attack on a declared field of battle like a gym, it attacks through infiltration and sabotage in the places you believe are safe. The modern workplace is the primary front in this covert war. It is a landscape engineered for weakness, a minefield of break-room donuts, catered lunches, vending machines, and birthday cakes. It is a system of social compliance designed to lull you back into the herd. The herd is soft, and it wants you to be soft with it. You have secured your home. Now you will fortify your position at work. Your 8th directive, daily. The logistical siege. 1. Total supply independence. You will prepare every meal you intend to consume at work in advance. You will bring your own fuel. You will never be caught without supplies, forced to rely on the enemy's rations. 2. The shield of no. You will be offered poison disguised as social bonding. Just one slice, they will say. You will politely but firmly decline. Your no thank you is your shield. It requires no further explanation. It is a complete sentence. Every time you use it, the shield gets stronger. 3. Weaponize your breaks. Your colleagues will use their breaks to complain, gossip, and consume more sugar, further dulling their minds. You will use your breaks to advance the mission, a 15-minute tactical walk, a quiet moment to review your objectives. Do not participate in their ritualized mediocrity. Your colleagues will not understand. They may mock you. They may call you obsessed. Let them. Their words are the death rattle of the weakness you are leaving behind. Every time you reject their offerings, you are not rejecting them. You are choosing yourself. You are reinforcing the signal that you are a man on a mission, and their comfortable world is not part of your objective. HD. The first test came on Tuesday. It was Susan from accounting's birthday. As if on cue, a massive sheet cake with fluorescent blue frosting appeared in the break room. An all-staff email went out. Come grab a slice and celebrate. The old Leo would have been the first in line. It was free food, a welcome distraction, a moment of social camouflage. He watched from his cubicle as the herd gathered. Peterson, his supervisor, caught his eye. Leo, you coming? Can't miss Susan's cake. All eyes turned to him. It was a loyalty test. He could feel the weight of their expectation. Just say yes. Just be normal. He stood up, feeling his heart start to pound. He walked toward the break room, and for a moment he thought he was going to break. He could almost taste the sugary frosting. Then he saw his reflection in the dark screen of a computer monitor. He saw the man who was still soft, but whose eyes had a new glint of determination. He thought of Maya's smile of respect. He thought of the feeling of victory after his march. He looked at Peterson and the expectant faces. Happy birthday, Susan, he said, his voice calm and even. Then he turned to Peterson. No, thank you. I appreciate the offer, though. He turned and walked back to his desk. The silence behind him was deafening. He had just drawn a line in the sand. He was no longer one of them. The feeling wasn't loneliness, it was power. That weekend, he went to the grocery store to resupply. He walked with a different posture, his shoulders back, his gaze forward. He saw Maya at her usual checkout lane. This time, he didn't hesitate. He went straight to her. The mission continues, he said, placing his eggs and chicken on the belt. She looked up, and her smile was wider this time. I can tell, she said, her eyes scanning him. He was still a big guy, but the puffiness in his face was starting to recede. His shirt seemed to hang a little differently. You're carrying yourself like you mean it. I do, Leo said, and the words felt like the truest thing he had ever said. My name's Maya, by the way, she said, her hands moving deftly over the scanner. Leo, he replied. Well, Leo, she said, handing him his receipt, keep it up. It's working. He walked out of the store, not just with supplies, but with a confirmation. The signal he was broadcasting was getting stronger. And for the first time, he felt like the man receiving it was the man he was always meant to be. The winner. Chapter 10. The Dobson Mindshift to Lifeshift Protocol. Data is ammunition. A month had passed, 30 days of relentless, monotonous discipline. Leo was now 20 pounds lighter. The man in the mirror was still a work in progress, but the outlines were changing. The softness around his jaw was hardening, and for the first time he could see the hint of a collarbone. His shirts fit differently, looser in the waist, tighter in the shoulders. The changes were not just physical. At work, his newfound focus was undeniable. Peterson had started giving him more complex projects, tasks that required the clarity he was now cultivating every day. He was no longer the invisible data entry drone, he was becoming a reliable asset. His interactions with Maya at the grocery store had become a weekly ritual, a 1% social victory. They talked about his progress, about her studies in kinesiology. He learned she was a competitive powerlifter. He no longer felt like a fraud in the Iron Temple. He felt like a novice training in the same art. Last week, he had done the unthinkable. He asked for her phone number. And she had given it to him. He hadn't used it yet. The fear of that next step was as palpable as his first day at the gym. The morning email from Dobson arrived, as always. But this one was different. It contained an attachment, a secure package. Subject, ammunition. You have survived the initial forging. You have demonstrated consistency. Now we accelerate. The system sells you magic pills. It promises effortless results from a single source. This is a lie to make you a dependent consumer. A warrior does not rely on a single weapon. He uses a combined arms approach. We will now deploy advanced tools to aid in your mission. In the attached package, you will find your supply drop for the next phase: semaglutide, NAD+, and glutathione. Your ninth directive, weekly, daily. The Dobson Mind Shift to Life Shift Protocol. 1. Semaglutide, weekly. This is your strategic weapon against the hormonal noise that drives hunger. It is not a crutch. It is a force multiplier. It will silence the cravings and allow your discipline to become the dominant signal in your body. You will administer it once a week, as instructed. 2. NAD+, daily. This is your cellular fuel. It will enhance the work you are already doing, improving energy, cognitive function, and recovery. This is how you win the war of attrition at a microscopic level. 3. Glutathione, daily. This is your shield. As you burn fat, you release stored toxins. Glutathione is your body's master, antioxidant, purging this waste and protecting your system from the stress of rapid transformation. These are not magic. They are tools. They amplify the effects of the discipline you have already forged. They will not do the work for you. They will make the work you are doing exponentially more effective. Understand this: you are now operating on a different level. You are combining the raw, primal effort of iron with the cutting edge of metabolic science. This is how you achieve maximum transformation in minimum time. Administer your first dose. Continue all other protocols. The war has a new front. HD Leo opened the package with trembling hands. The vials and syringes looked clinical, serious. This was a new level of commitment. He read the instructions, his focus absolute. He administered the first dose, a small, sharp sting that felt like a final initiation. He felt a surge of something new. It wasn't just determination, it was a sense of empowerment. He had the raw discipline, and now he had the advanced technology. He was a warrior being handed a state-of-the-art rifle. He picked up his phone. He looked at Maya's name in his contacts. The fear was still there, but it was now a smaller voice. The voice of his mission was louder. Taking her out was no longer an impossible dream, it was a tactical objective. It was the next 1% step in becoming the man who was no longer invisible. He typed the message. "Hey Maya, it's Leo. I'm hitting the gym after work tonight. Any chance you'd want to grab a protein shake or a coffee afterward?" He hit send before the fear could stop him. The 3 dots on his screen felt more terrifying than any dumbbell. A minute later, his phone buzzed. "I'm training tonight too. Coffee sounds great. See you there." Chapter 11, The Supplement Edge, Force Multipliers. The workout at the Iron Temple was different. Leo moved with an intensity he hadn't possessed before, fueled by the knowledge that Maya would be there, that she would see him. He added 5 pounds to his goblet squat. He pushed out 2 more reps on his rows. Every movement was sharp, purposeful. He was no longer just a participant. He was a contender. He met her outside, his body humming with adrenaline and exhaustion. She was even more striking outside the fluorescent lights of the grocery store, dressed in workout gear that showed the powerful lines of her athletic frame. You weren't kidding about the mission, she said, her eyes crinkling in a smile as she took in his sweat-soaked shirt. You look like you just wrestled a bear. Felt like it, Leo laughed, a sound that was still foreign but increasingly comfortable. They walked to a small coffee shop down the street. The conversation was easy, flowing from workout routines to their jobs to the shared absurdity of the modern world. He wasn't the awkward, mumbling man from the checkout line. He was articulate, focused, and present. He was interesting. He felt for the first time like he was winning. And then the bell on the coffee shop door chimed, and his world tilted on its axis. It was Sarah, his ex-girlfriend, the woman whose parting words had been the soundtrack to his rock bottom. She was with a man who was everything Leo wasn't. Tall, lean, dressed in expensive clothes, radiating an effortless confidence. Sarah's eyes scanned the room and locked on Leo. A flicker of confusion, then recognition, then a slow, condescending smile. She nudged her boyfriend, whispering something. The man glanced over, his eyes flicking over Leo's still large frame with a look of complete dismissal, before turning back to Sarah. It was a social execution, swift and brutal. In that instant, Leo was gone. The focused warrior vanished, replaced by the 287-pound loser in a sweaty t-shirt. The shame was a physical force, a cold wave that washed over him, drowning him. He wanted to shrink, to disappear, to run. His shoulders slumped, his gaze fell to the table. He was invisible again. The moment passed. They ordered their coffee and left. But the damage was done. The easy energy between him and Maya had evaporated, replaced by a thick, awkward silence. So, that was... Maya started, her voice gentle. Nobody, Leo mumbled, the old reflex of self-erasure taking over. Just someone I used to know. He couldn't meet her eyes. He felt like a complete fraud. She had seen him as a man on a mission, but the second he was confronted by his past, he had reverted to the pathetic version of himself. He was a loser playing dress-up. The rest of the date was a disaster. His answers were monosyllabic. His focus was shattered. He walked her to her car, the silence between them a chasm. "Well," she said, pausing by her door, "thanks for the coffee, Leo." Her voice was different. The respect was gone, replaced by a polite, clinical distance. He nodded, unable to speak. He watched her drive away, the taillights disappearing into the night, taking with them the fragile confidence he had spent the last month building. He walked home, the hour-long march feeling like a death sentence. His apartment, once a barracks, now felt like a prison cell. He had been tested, and he had failed spectacularly. He opened his laptop, his fingers heavy with self-loathing. He typed a report to Dobson, the words a confession. Encountered an ambush. Tactical retreat. Mission compromised. He expected a brutal reprimand, a dismissal from the program. Instead, the reply that came back a few minutes later was analytical, cold, and strangely timed. Subject: re-ammunition. You mistake the nature of the war. You believe the battle is only against fat and laziness. You are wrong. The primary battle is psychological. Your past is a ghost, and you just allowed it to win a skirmish because your mind is undersupplied. A body running on deficient fuel cannot perform optimally. A mind running on deficient micronutrients cannot withstand a psychological assault. Your brain chemistry is weak. Your resilience is low. Your focus shatters under pressure because you lack the raw materials to maintain it. You have been building the engine, but you have been using contaminated fuel. Your 10th directive, immediate. Fortify the mind. 1. Procure the support stack. Multivitamin, multi-mineral, essential amino acids. These are not optional. They are as critical as protein. 2. Minerals are your mental armor. Magnesium for calm, zinc for hormonal balance. Vitamins are the catalysts for every neurological process that governs confidence and resolve. 3. Amino acids are the building blocks of your neurotransmitters, the very chemicals that regulate your mood and focus. You were not defeated by your ex-girlfriend. You were defeated by a serotonin dip and a cortisol spike that your undernourished brain could not handle. You will not make that mistake again. You will arm your mind as rigorously as you arm your body. This is the supplement edge. It is the force multiplier that allows a warrior to stand firm when the civilian would break. Procure your supplies. Fortify your mind. The next time you face the enemy, you will be armed. HD. Chapter 12. Cravings Control. Mastering the Mind. Shame was a physical poison. Leo felt it in the pit of his stomach, a cold, heavy dread. He replayed the moment with Sarah 100 times, each replay a fresh wave of humiliation. He had crumbled. In the one moment that mattered, the warrior had fled, and the loser had taken his place. Dobson's email was a lifeline. It wasn't absolution, but it was a diagnosis. It transformed his shame into a tactical problem with a logistical solution. He hadn't failed due to a fundamental flaw in his character. He had failed due to a flaw in his supply chain. The next morning, he was at a supplement store when it opened. He bought the 3 bottles, multivitamin, multi-mineral, essential amino acids, with the same grim determination he'd bought his first load of chicken and eggs. He wasn't buying hope, he was buying ammunition. The effect was not immediate, there was no lightning bolt of confidence. But over the next few days, as he continued his relentless protocols, the march, the forge, the fuel, the recovery, he noticed a subtle shift. The crushing weight of his failure with Maya began to lift. It was still there, a scar, but it no longer defined his entire emotional landscape. His focus at work, which had been shaken, returned with a new, sharper edge. He felt stable. The emotional peaks and valleys were less extreme. He was building a foundation. He avoided the grocery store for a week, unwilling to face Maya. He resupplied at a different, inferior store. The act itself a small admission of cowardice that gnawed at him. He knew he was hiding. Then the next directive arrived. Subject, the inner citadel. You have fortified your body. You have fortified your brain chemistry. Now you will fortify the commander's post, your mind. The system has trained you to be a slave to your impulses. A craving for sugar, a craving for comfort, a craving for validation from others. They are all the same enemy. They are signals from the weak, undisciplined part of your brain that has been in control your entire life. You will now learn to starve that enemy. Your 11th directive, daily. The 10-minute siege. 1. Each morning, immediately upon waking, you will sit. In a chair, on the floor, it does not matter. You will set a timer for 10 minutes. 2. You will close your eyes and do nothing. You will focus only on your breath. 3. Your mind will rebel. It will flood you with 1,000 distractions. Thoughts about work, anxieties, memories of failure, urges to check your phone. This is the enemy attacking the walls. 4. You will not fight these. Thoughts, you will not engage them. You will simply observe them. Like a watchman on a castle wall, observing an enemy army. Acknowledge them and then return your focus to your breath. The breath is your fortress. This is not meditation. This is a training exercise in non-reaction. You are teaching yourself that a thought is not a command. An urge is not an order. A craving is not a necessity. You are creating a space between impulse and action. In that space, discipline is forged. You have cravings for sugar. You have cravings for the approval of women. You will now learn that you are the commander, not the craving. You decide which orders are followed. HD Leo thought it was the stupidest directive yet. 10 minutes of nothing. But the protocol was the protocol. The next morning, he sat on the edge of his bed in the pre-dawn darkness and set his phone timer. It was agony. His mind was a chaotic swarm of bees. Did Peterson get my email? I need to remember to buy paper towels. God, I was such an idiot in front of Maya. What did Sarah's new boyfriend do for a living? He looked rich. I should check my bank account. He kept pulling his focus back to his breath. Inhale. Exhale. The thoughts would swarm, and he would gently guide his attention back. It was the hardest workout he'd ever done. When the timer finally chimed, he was exhausted. He did it again the next day. And the next. Slowly, imperceptibly, something began to shift. The space between his thoughts grew longer. He began to see his anxious thoughts not as absolute truths, but as clouds passing in the sky. They were events, not his identity. On Friday, Peterson dropped a bombshell. A critical project for their biggest client had been corrupted. They had until Monday morning to manually rebuild a massive dataset, a task that should have taken 2 weeks. It was a crisis. Panic erupted in the office. People were complaining, blaming, spiraling into stress. The old Leo would have been the first to drown in the anxiety. He would have felt the immediate urge for comfort, for a donut, for a distraction, for someone to tell him it would be okay. The new Leo felt the initial spike of adrenaline, the familiar tightening in his chest. But then the training kicked in. He observed the panic, he acknowledged it, and then he returned his focus to his breath. He turned to Peterson, who was rubbing his temples. "What's the first 1% of the problem we can solve right now?" Leo asked, his voice calm and clear. Peterson looked up, startled by the lack of panic in Leo's voice. "What?" "The first step," Leo repeated. "Let's just map out the first part. The rest will follow." For the next 48 hours, Leo was a machine. He worked through the weekend, fueled by chicken, water, and an unshakable, quiet focus. He didn't complain. He didn't stress. He just executed, one data point at a time. He was a watchman on the wall, and the panic was an enemy army he refused to engage. By Sunday night, it was done. He sent the completed file to Peterson with a simple note. Objective complete. The victory was profound. It was a win forged not in the gym, but in the quiet 10-minute battles he had been fighting in his mind every morning. He had met a real-world ambush, not with a retreat, but with a calm, strategic advance. He knew what he had to do. He picked up his keys and drove to the grocery store. It was late, and he hoped Maya's shift was over, but as he walked in, he saw her restocking a shelf. He didn't hesitate. He walked right up to her. "Hey," he said. She looked up, her expression guarded. "Hey, Leo." "I just wanted to apologize," he said, his voice steady. "The other night I was an idiot. I let something from my past get in my head, and I shut down. It wasn't fair to you." He didn't make excuses. He didn't ask for a second chance. He just stated the truth. He owned his failure. She studied his face for a long moment. He didn't look away. He just stood there, grounded, present. The signal he was broadcasting now was different. It wasn't the fragile confidence of a man playing a role. It was the quiet strength of a man who was in command of his own mind. A slow smile spread across her face. "Well," she said, her voice losing its clinical edge, "the mission continues, right?" "The mission always continues," Leo said, and for the first time he knew it was true. Chapter 13. Stress Under Command, Weaponizing Calm. Monday morning, Peterson called Leo into his glass-walled office. The mood in the department was a mix of relief and exhaustion from the weekend's crisis. Leo felt a familiar knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. "I missed something. There's another mistake." Peterson gestured for him to close the door and sit. The supervisor looked haggard, but his eyes were sharp. "I've been watching you for the past 2 months, Leo," Peterson began, leaning forward. "Frankly, I don't know what's going on with you, but it's working. You're focused. You're consistent. This weekend, you didn't just do the work, you led the work. You were the only one in the room who didn't panic." Leo sat straighter, his mind processing. "The board has approved the creation of a new position," Peterson continued, "head of data integrity. It's a leadership role, more responsibility, more pressure, more pay. The job is yours if you want it." The old Leo would have been flooded with a paralyzing wave of imposter syndrome. He would have stammered, deflected, convinced himself it was a mistake. The new Leo felt the spike of adrenaline, the familiar thud of fear in his chest. But his 10-minute sieges had taught him something. He observed the fear, he acknowledged it, and he set it aside. "I accept," Leo said, his voice a low, steady calm he didn't know he possessed. He walked out of the office a different man. The news spread through the department like a shockwave. He saw the looks from his colleagues, surprise from some, resentment from others, especially from Mark, a senior analyst who had clearly expected the promotion himself. The air was thick with it. This wasn't a victory lap. It was the opening move in a new, more complex war. The stress was immediate and immense. As if on cue, a new email from Dobson arrived. It was uncanny, as if the man had informants everywhere. Subject: the eye of the storm. "You have been promoted. Do not celebrate. A promotion is not a reward. It is a heavier weapon. It comes with greater responsibility and a higher caliber of enemy. The system teaches you to fear stress. It tells you to seek a stress-free life. This is a lie designed for the weak. Stress is merely pressure. It is a neutral force. Like gravity, it can crush you, or it can be used to create immense power. Weightlifting is the application of controlled physical stress to force muscle growth. The stress of your new position is no different. It is an opportunity to forge mental and emotional muscle. You will not avoid it. You will harness it. Your 12th directive, as needed, tactical breathing. 1. Before any high-stress event, a difficult meeting, a confrontation, a critical decision, you will find 60 seconds. 2. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. 3. Hold your breath for a count of 4. 4. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. 4. 5. Hold the exhale for a count of 4. 6. Repeat for 1 minute. This is a physiological reset. It is a manual override of your body's panic response, the sympathetic nervous system, and an activation of your body's calm, focused state, the parasympathetic nervous system. It lowers cortisol and clears the mind. Stress creates a storm of panicked thoughts. This technique is how you find the eye of that storm. From that place of calm, you can command the chaos instead of being consumed by it. You will weaponize calm. HD, the first test came that afternoon. Leo called his first team meeting. The 5 analysts filed into the small conference room, the air thick with tension. Mark sat directly opposite him, his arms crossed, his expression a mask of contempt. Mark let Leo get 2 minutes into his opening remarks before he struck. "With all due respect, Leo," he began, the words dripping with condescension, "some of us have been here a lot longer than you. What exactly makes you qualified to lead this team?" It was a direct challenge, a public execution attempt. The room went silent. Everyone stared, waiting for the new, unproven commander to crumble. Leo felt a hot surge of adrenaline, his heart rate kicking into high gear. The old Leo would have stammered, gotten defensive, lost control. But he had a new weapon. He paused, looking directly at Mark. He held the silence for a beat longer than was comfortable. Under the conference table, out of sight, he began the sequence. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. The storm in his mind began to quiet. The roaring in his ears subsided. Clarity returned. He was in the eye. "That's a fair question, Mark," Leo said, his voice level and devoid of emotion. "My qualifications are the results I've produced, particularly this past weekend. But you're right, you have more experience in this department than I do. That's why I'm going to be relying on your expertise to help us streamline the new error-checking protocols. In fact, I'd like you to lead that part of the project." He had taken the grenade Mark threw at him, disarmed it, and handed it back as a gift. It was a masterful move, simultaneously acknowledging Mark's experience, asserting his own authority, and giving his most hostile subordinate a critical task, making him a stakeholder in the project's success. Mark was visibly thrown. He could not argue against being given more responsibility. He simply nodded, his attack completely neutralized. The tension in the room broke. The rest of the team looked at Leo with a new, grudging respect. He hadn't just survived the attack. He had commanded the situation. That night, he met Maya for dinner. It wasn't coffee in sweaty gym clothes. It was a real date. He had made a reservation at a restaurant with actual tablecloths. He told her about the promotion, the pressure, the meeting with Mark. He explained Dobson's philosophy of weaponizing calm. As a competitive athlete, she understood instantly. "It's the same as stepping up for a heavy lift," she said, her eyes bright with understanding. "The adrenaline is pumping. Everyone's watching. If you let the pressure get to you, you fail. But if you can find that quiet place in your mind, that's where the strength comes from." He looked at her across the table, this strong, intelligent woman who saw him, who understood the battle he was fighting. He was no longer the invisible man. He was the commander, sitting in the eye of the storm, exactly where he was supposed to be. Chapter 14. Battlefield Awareness, Tracking the Mission. The victory over Mark was short-lived. Leo quickly discovered that being a leader was a war fought on 1,000 fronts at once. His days were no longer his own. They were a relentless barrage of meetings, personnel issues, and technical crises. He found himself slipping. He missed a workout. He was 10 grams short on his protein mandate. He caught himself scrolling on his phone late at night, breaking the blackout protocol. He was winning the major battles, but losing the war of attrition. The 1% gains were being eroded by 1% losses in discipline. He felt himself drifting, the sharp clarity he'd fought so hard for becoming clouded by the fog of his new responsibilities. He was succeeding at work, but failing the mission. The email from Dobson was waiting for him on a Saturday morning. Subject: Complacency is a disease. You have tasted victory, and now you are becoming careless. You believe that because you won a promotion, the war is over. You are a fool. Success is a more dangerous enemy than failure. It breeds complacency. It whispers that you can relax the protocols, that you've earned a break. This is a lie that has destroyed more men than any enemy army. A commander who does not have total awareness of his battlefield, every resource, every soldier, every threat will be outmaneuvered and destroyed. You are flying blind. Your feelings of control are an illusion. Your 13th directive, weekly. The mission debrief. 1. Every Sunday night, you will conduct a mandatory debrief of the previous week. You will use a simple logbook. 2. You will track key performance indicators, KPIs, across 4 critical fronts: physical, professional, personal, and psychological. 3. Physical, weight lost or gained. Workouts completed/missed. Protein mandates met/failed. Hydration and sleep protocols followed, rate 1 to 10. 4. Professional, key objectives met, major challenges overcome, failures analyzed. 5. Personal, time invested in valuable relationships, Maya. Time wasted on meaningless distraction. 6. Psychological, 10-minute sieges completed. Tactical breathing deployed. Rate overall mental state, 1 to 10. This is not a diary. This is a commander's log. It is a cold, brutal, honest assessment of your performance. You will identify your weaknesses. You will analyze your failures. You will formulate a strategy to be 1% better in the coming week. What gets measured gets managed. You have been tracking your food and your workouts. Now you will track the entire mission. This is how you maintain battlefield awareness. This is how you kill complacency before it kills you. HD. The directive was a splash of cold water to the face. Dobson was right. He had become arrogant, complacent. He had mistaken a single promotion for a final victory. That Sunday, Leo sat down with a new notebook. He drew 4 columns. The process was agonizingly honest. He saw the missed workout in stark black and white. He saw his sleep score drop from a 9 to a 6. He saw the hours he'd wasted on pointless corporate politics instead of focusing on his core objectives. He saw that he had cancelled a planned gym session with Maya because of a last-minute work emergency that could have waited. The data told a clear story. His professional life was expanding at the direct expense of his physical and personal foundations. He was building a skyscraper on a cracking foundation. The next morning, he walked into his new office with a new clarity. He created a simple dashboard on his whiteboard, listing the team's weekly objectives. He called Mark in. "Mark, your protocol-checking project is falling behind schedule," Leo said, pointing to the data. He wasn't accusing, he was stating a fact. "The data shows you're spending 60% of your time on low-priority bug fixes. I need you at 80% on the new protocol by Friday. What resources do you need from me to make that happen?" He was managing his team the way Dobson managed him, with clear, measurable directives. That evening, he was scheduled to work late. An hour before he was supposed to meet Maya at the gym, his phone rang. It was Peterson. "Leo, we have a server issue. I need you to stay." The old Leo would have immediately surrendered, seeing it as an unavoidable part of his new role. The new Leo, armed with the hard data from his mission debrief, saw it differently. "I can give you 1 more hour, Peterson," Leo said, his voice firm. "Then I have a hard stop. It's a non-negotiable commitment. I'll delegate the rest of the diagnostics to the night team, and we can reassess at 0700. He was drawing a boundary. He was treating his commitment to Maya and to himself with the same tactical importance as his job. There was a pause on the other end of the line, then Peterson said, "Okay, Leo. 1 hour." He met Maya at the Iron Temple. He was a few minutes late, but he was there. As he watched her load a heavy barbell for her squat, he realized something. The gym wasn't just a place to forge his body anymore. It was a sanctuary, a place where the rules were simple and the results were honest. It was his foundation. "Everything okay?" she asked, noticing the lingering intensity in his eyes. "Just recalibrating the mission," he said. He understood now. The war wasn't a series of isolated battles to be won. It was a continuous campaign, and the only way to win was to have total, unwavering awareness of every single front. Chapter 15. The War Council, Power of the Pack. 3 months into the protocol, Leo was 40 pounds lighter. The man in the mirror was no longer a stranger. He was an ally. The soft, undefined mass was being replaced by hard lines and dense muscle. He was down 3 pant sizes. His face had a jawline. The changes were no longer subtle. They were undeniable. He had become a ruthlessly effective commander of his own life, a master of logistics and discipline. But he was still a lone operator. His relationship with Maya was a sanctuary, and his team at work was functional, but he was fighting the war alone. The email that marked the beginning of Phase 3 arrived on a Monday, its subject line a single provocative word. Subject: Kings. You have forged yourself into a formidable soldier. You follow orders. You execute the mission. You have achieved more than 99% of men will ever attempt. But a soldier, no matter how skilled, is still just a soldier. He does not win the war. The system romanticizes the lone wolf. This is a lie to keep strong men isolated and ineffective. A single wolf is a threat. A pack is a force of nature. A lone warrior can win a battle. A council of warriors can conquer an empire. You have reached the limits of what you can accomplish alone. To achieve total dominance, you must evolve from a soldier into a king. And a king's greatest strength is not his own arm, but his war council. Your 14th directive: assemble your council. 1. A king does not surround himself with sycophants. He surrounds himself with experts and killers. You will formally recruit a council of 2. 2. The physical minister. Your relationship with Maya is your greatest asset. But you still treat her as a civilian. This is a mistake. She is an expert in your field of battle. You will formally ask her to be your training partner and physical strategist. You will show her your logs. You will cede to her expertise. You will transform your relationship from a romance into an alliance. 3. The Minister of War. Your greatest adversary at work is Mark. He is also your most valuable asset. He is cynical, but he is sharp. You will convert him. Take him off the battlefield. You will meet him for lunch and make him an offer. You will name him your deputy. You will not ask for his friendship. You will demand his loyalty by empowering him. His new directive will be to find the flaws in your plans before the enemy does. A soldier is afraid to show weakness. A king leverages the strengths of others to cover his own. You will stop being a soldier. You will assemble your council. You will start thinking like a king. HD. The directive was a paradigm shift. For months, the war had been internal. Now Dobson was ordering him to open his gates and let others in. The vulnerability was terrifying. He started with Maya. That night at the Iron Temple, after their workout, he didn't just ask her out for coffee. He sat her down on a bench, his workout log in hand. "Maya," he began, his voice serious, "I need to ask you something. This mission, it's the most important thing I've ever done, and I've been treating you like you're just along for the ride. That's an insult to you and a strategic error for me. You're an expert. I'm a novice. I want to ask you to be more than my girlfriend. I want to ask you to be my partner in this. My strategist." He opened the notebook, showing her the pages of reps and sets. "This is what Dobson gave me. It's worked. But I know it's not optimal. I want your expertise. I want you to tear it apart, rebuild it. I'm not asking for a cheerleader. I'm asking for a commander." Maya was silent for a long moment, looking from the logbook to his face. A slow, powerful smile spread across her lips. "Okay, soldier," she said, taking the notebook from his hands. "First thing we're doing is fixing this chicken scratch handwriting. Second, your dumbbell rows are pathetic. We're changing that tomorrow." The next day, he took Mark to a steakhouse for lunch. The tension was thick. "What's this about, Leo?" Mark asked, dispensing with pleasantries. It's about my war room, Leo said, sliding a piece of paper across the table. On it, he had drawn a simple organizational chart for the department. His name was at the top. Directly below him was a new box. Deputy Head. Inside the box, he had written Mark's name. I'm not a manager, Mark, Leo said. I'm a strategist. I'm good at seeing the whole battlefield. You are the best tactical mind in this department. You see the vulnerabilities I miss. I don't need another analyst who does what I say. I need a lieutenant. I need someone whose job is to tell me I'm wrong, to poke holes in my strategies so we can patch them before the client does. I want you to be my Minister of War. Mark stared at the paper, then back at Leo, his cynical mask cracking for the first time. He had spent his career being the smartest, most critical person in the room, and it had earned him nothing but resentment. Leo wasn't just offering him a title, he was offering him a purpose for his greatest strength. Okay, boss, Mark said, the word boss now carrying a different weight, not of sarcasm, but of allegiance. The first thing you're wrong about is our current server allocation. It's a disaster waiting to happen. That Sunday, Leo conducted his mission debrief. But he wasn't alone. He was on the phone with Maya, analyzing his new, far more brutal workout protocol. And on his calendar for Monday at 0800 was a new recurring meeting, War Council with Mark. He had opened the gates. His fortress was no longer a solitary outpost. It was becoming a command center. He sent his report to Dobson. The council is assembled. The reply was a single sentence. A king who fights his own battles is a fool. A king who builds a council of lions is a ruler. Chapter 16. Momentum. Acknowledging victories. Life with a war council was brutally effective. Maya transformed his workouts from a monotonous checklist into a targeted, punishing assault. She found his weaknesses and attacked them with relentless precision. His progress, which had been steady, accelerated. At work, Mark became an indispensable asset. He preemptively identified 3 critical flaws in their data pipeline, saving the team weeks of reactive work and earning them a rare commendation from the CTO. The pack was a force of nature. They were winning. But Leo never felt like a winner. His training under Dobson had conditioned him to see every victory as a mere consolidation of gains, a stepping stone to the next battle. He achieved a new personal record on his squat, and his only thought was that he should have gone for 5 more pounds. He and Mark received the CTO's praise, and his only thought was about the next quarterly report. He was executing the mission, but he was devoid of the satisfaction of progress. He was a machine, running a protocol. The email from Dobson arrived after Leo logged a particularly significant week in his mission debrief. A new lifting milestone and a major professional victory. Subject: the spoils of war. Your progress is accelerating, your counsel is effective, but your mindset is still that of a soldier. You complete an objective and immediately look for the next hill to take. This discipline has served you well, but it is incomplete. An army that fights without reward will eventually break. A soldier who never tastes the spoils of victory will lose his will to fight. You are confusing celebration with acknowledgement. The amateur celebrates to feel good. The king acknowledges victory to build momentum. Momentum is a strategic asset. It is the psychological force that turns a series of small wins into an unstoppable campaign. It is built not just by winning, but by recognizing the win. This recognition reinforces the behavior that led to victory, both for you and for your council. Your 15th directive, the ritual of acknowledgement. 1. You will establish a weekly ritual to acknowledge the victories of your war council. 2. The physical minister. After your final workout of the week with Maya, you will not just leave the gym. You will conduct a 2-minute debrief. You will identify the single biggest physical win of the week. You will acknowledge her strategic input that led to it. This is not a celebration. It is a tactical analysis of a successful operation. 3. The Minister of War. At the end of your weekly War Council meeting with Mark, you will spend the final 5 minutes acknowledging the biggest professional win. You will explicitly credit him for his contribution. You will record this victory in a shared document, a book of wins, so a tangible record of momentum is built. A soldier follows orders because he has to. A lion follows a king because he gets to share in the kill. By acknowledging their victories, you are not being nice. You are binding your council to the mission with the powerful forces of respect and shared success. You are building a culture of winning. HD, the directive felt alien, a violation of the Spartan, results-only mindset Dobson had hammered into him. But the protocol was the protocol. That Friday, after a grueling leg day session that left him trembling, he and Maya were packing up their gym bags. The old Leo would have mumbled a thanks and left. Instead, he stopped her. "Hey, debrief." She looked at him confused. "Biggest win this week was breaking 225 on the squat," he said, his voice formal, almost clinical. "The form adjustment you gave me on Tuesday was the 1% shift that made it possible. Good strategy." Maya stared at him, then a slow, genuine smile broke across her face. It wasn't the smile she gave her boyfriend, it was the smile a coach gives an athlete who finally executed the game plan. "Damn right it was," she said. "Next week we go for 235. The acknowledgement hadn't made him soft. It had made them stronger. It had turned them from a couple who worked out into a team. On Monday morning, at the end of his meeting with Mark, he pulled up a new document on the shared screen titled War Council Book of Wins. "Before we wrap," Leo said, "I'm instituting a new protocol. We're logging victories. The biggest win last week was the proactive server fix. That was your analysis, Mark. It saved us from a crisis and got us noticed by the CTO. That's a major win for this department." He typed a summary of the event into the document. "It's in the book." Mark looked at the screen, at his name next to a documented success. For the first time, Leo saw the deep-seated cynicism in Mark's eyes recede, replaced by a flicker of something else. Pride. "The load balancers are still inefficient," Mark said, already thinking about the next battle. "I think I've found a 1% improvement we can implement this week." Leo sent his report to Dobson that night. Momentum is being cultivated. The council is engaged. He realized then that leadership wasn't just about giving orders. It was about building a machine that wanted to win, and then sharing in the spoils of the victories they achieved together. Chapter 17. Breaking formation, smashing plateaus. 5 months, 47 pounds lost. Leo stood on the precipice of his objective, 3 pounds away from the 50-pound mark that had once seemed like an impossible dream. He was a king in his own small kingdom, with an effective council and undeniable momentum. And then the world stopped moving. For 1 week, the number on the scale didn't change, 240.0. He logged it in his war room debrief. Anomaly. The second week, the same, 240.0. Frustration began to creep in. The third week, after a week of even stricter discipline and more punishing workouts, the number was 240.2. He had gained. The plateau was not just a physical reality, it was a psychological assault. The 1% rule, the foundational principle of his entire transformation, had failed him. Every protocol was being executed with monastic devotion, but the results had stopped. The machine was grinding, but it was no longer advancing. His frustration bled into every front. In the gym, he pushed too hard, chasing numbers his body couldn't hit, and a sharp, angry pain flared in his shoulder. He snapped at Maya when she tried to correct his form. "I'm doing it right," he barked, the words tasting like poison as soon as they left his mouth. At work, his calm, strategic command faltered. He dismissed one of Mark's concerns as too negative, only to have that exact issue blow up into a minor client crisis 2 days later. The momentum was gone, replaced by a grim, joyless slog. His Sunday report to Dobson was a testament to his frustration. Stalled on all fronts. Protocols ineffective. The 1% rule has failed. Morale critical. The reply came faster than usual. Subject: the good soldier. "You are acting like a good soldier. You are executing the last order you were given with perfect discipline, even as the battlefield has changed around you. A good soldier will march straight into a machine gun nest if ordered. He will die with honor, and he will lose the war. A plateau is not a failure of discipline. It is a sign that the enemy, your body, your career, your life, has adapted to your tactics. It has reinforced its defenses. A soldier's response is to hit the wall harder. A king's response is to change the angle of attack. The 1% rule is how you build an army. But when that army meets a fortified wall, you do not send one more soldier at a time. You break formation. You introduce chaos. You shock the system. Your 16th directive, the pattern interrupt. 1. For the next 48 hours, you will break protocol. This is a controlled demolition. 2. The strategic refeed. Tomorrow you will double your carbohydrate intake. This is not a cheat day. It is a calculated metabolic shock. You will eat clean carbs, rice, potatoes, oats. You are signaling to your body that the famine is over, resetting the hormones that have slowed your metabolism in response to sustained fat loss. 3. The unconventional assault. Your next workout, scheduled with Maya, will not involve your usual lifts. You will find a hill. You will sprint up it 10 times. You will want to quit after 3. This is not about building muscle. It is about redlining your entire system, a shock to your central nervous system. This will feel wrong. It will feel like a betrayal of the discipline you have forged. Good. Your comfort with the routine has become the enemy. A king must be willing to sacrifice a tactic to save the strategy. Break the pattern, shock the system. Get the line moving again. HD Leo showed the email to Maya. This is insane, he said. Eat more. Stop lifting. It goes against everything. Maya read it, her expression unreadable. Then she looked up at him. A good coach knows when to change the playbook, she said. Your body thinks it's in a long, slow siege. It's gotten efficient. It's holding on to every resource. Dobson is telling it the siege is over and a new war just started. The next day felt like a crime. He ate a massive bowl of oatmeal for breakfast and potatoes with his chicken for lunch. He felt bloated and soft, the psychological weight of the carbs far heavier than their physical reality. That evening, Maya didn't take him to the Iron Temple. She took him to a steep, grassy hill in a park overlooking the city. 10 sprints, she said, all the way to the top. I'll time you. The first sprint was exhilarating, a burst of power. The second was brutal. By the fourth, his lungs were on fire, his legs filled with lead, and the old weak voice screamed at him to stop. This wasn't the controlled, powerful grind of lifting. It was chaotic, primal agony. He collapsed at the top of the 7th sprint, gasping on the wet grass. I can't, he choked out. Maya stood over him, not with sympathy, but with the cold eyes of a commander. Dobson didn't say sprint 7 times, Leo. The directive was 10. Get up. Her words were a slap in the face. He wasn't her boyfriend right now. He was her soldier. He staggered to his feet and completed the final 3 sprints in a haze of pain and pure defiant will. The next morning, he was more sore than he had been in months, a deep systemic ache. He stumbled to the scale, expecting the worst. The number was 238.5. He had dropped 1.5 pounds. He went to the gym with Maya that Friday. He felt different, energized. She loaded 240 onto the squat rack, a weight he hadn't been able to move for weeks. He got under the bar, took his tactical breath, and descended. The weight felt light. He drove up with a power that shocked him, the bar flying up. The plateau wasn't just broken, it was annihilated. He understood. The 1% rule wasn't a single, unchanging law. It was the foundation. But on top of that foundation, a true king had to know when to break the rules, when to abandon the proven tactic for a bold, unconventional assault. It wasn't about discipline alone. It was about the wisdom to know when discipline needed to be disrupted. Chapter 18. The Coronation, Becoming the 1%. 6 months to the day, 180 days of war. Leo stood before the scale in the pre-dawn silence of his apartment. It was no longer an instrument of judgment, but a simple data collection device. He took a tactical breath and stepped on. The numbers flickered and then settled. 237.0. He had lost exactly 50 pounds. He stared at the number, expecting a surge of elation, a triumphant roar. Instead, there was only a profound, quiet stillness. The objective had been met. The mission, as stated, was complete. He stepped off the scale and walked to the bathroom mirror, where the faded 6-month-old declaration of war was still taped. I will lose 50 pounds by April 12th, 2026, because I refuse to be invisible anymore. He looked at the man in the reflection. The face was his, but the architecture was different. The puffiness was gone, replaced by the hard angles of a man who lived on protein and iron. The eyes were the biggest change. The old, haunted look of the loser was gone. In its place was the calm, steady gaze of a commander. He was no longer invisible because he could finally see himself. This was the coronation. It wasn't a crown being placed on his head. It was the quiet, internal acknowledgement that the man in the mirror was no longer an imposter. The identity he had been forging, 1% at a time, was now his own. Later that day, on his tactical lunch break walk, his phone buzzed. It was a text from a number he didn't recognize. "Leo? It's Sarah. I saw you the other day. You look different. We should catch up." He read the message, and the ghost of his old self flinched, the memory of shame a phantom limb. But the king felt nothing, not anger, not triumph, only a distant clinical detachment. Her validation, which he had once craved like a drug, was now irrelevant. It was a signal from a world he no longer inhabited. He deleted the message without replying. She was a ghost. He was real. That evening, the final email of the initial protocol arrived from Dobson. Subject: the end of the beginning. Objective met. The man who began this mission is dead. You have killed him, one disciplined decision at a time. The body you inhabit now is the monument to his execution. But the war is not over. The system is always trying to reclaim its lost soldiers. The old you is always waiting for an opening. Your transformation is not complete until it becomes your identity. A diet is something you do. An identity is something you are. You no longer eat healthy. You are a man who fuels himself for war. You no longer go to the gym. You are a man who forges steel. This is the final, most important 1% shift. Your 17th directive, the coronation. 1. Take down the note on your mirror. That was the declaration of a soldier going to war. That war is won. 2. In its place, you will write a new declaration. Not an objective, but an identity. Who are you now? Define the man you have become in a single powerful sentence. The protocols are no longer orders you follow. They are the operating system of who you are. This is the final stage of the mission. This is how you become the 1%. HD Leo walked to his bathroom mirror and carefully peeled the old note from the glass. He read it one last time, a relic from a dead man's life, and let it fall into the trash. He took out a new piece of paper and the same black marker. He didn't have to think. He knew who he was. He wrote the words, the letters sharp and permanent. "I am the architect." He taped it to the mirror. He wasn't a soldier following a map anymore. He was the one who would now draw it. He went to the Iron Temple to meet Maya. She was at the squat rack, a mountain of iron on her back, her face a mask of intense focus. He didn't interrupt. He just watched, a profound sense of respect and admiration washing over him. She wasn't just his girlfriend or his strategist. She was a fellow king, a ruler in her own right. When she finished her set, she saw him, and a smile broke through her focus. "Objective met," he said, his voice quiet. She didn't cheer or congratulate him. She just nodded, the acknowledgement of one commander to another. "Good," she said. "The beginning is over. Now the real work starts." He knew she was right. Losing the weight was just the first campaign. Now it was time to build an empire. Chapter 19. The Legacy Protocol, Building an Empire. The weeks after his coronation were a new kind of war. The objective was no longer to lose, but to build. He and Maya worked to slowly increase his calories, fueling the forging of new muscle. The number on the scale crept up, from 237 to 245. But the man in the mirror was leaner, harder, more dense. It was the difference between being a soldier who survived the battle and a king securing his territory. He commanded his department with a quiet, data-driven authority. His war council with Mark was brutally efficient, their book of wins growing with each passing week. He was a success. He was in control, and he was restless. He felt like a king who had fortified his castle but had no empire to rule. The 1% rule had transformed him, but he was still the sole subject of its power. The restlessness crystallized during a team meeting. He was looking at David, a junior analyst. David was brilliant with raw data, but he was invisible. He was quiet, overweight, and radiated the same signal of quiet apathy Leo had broadcast for years. He was the ghost of Leo's past, sitting right there in his conference room. That night, his report to Dobson was not a list of KPIs. It was a question. I have built a kingdom of one. How do I build an empire? The reply was the first one that ever began with a single word of praise. Subject: legacy. Excellent. You have reached the final stage. The soldier fights for himself. The king fights for his kingdom. The emperor fights for a legacy, a system, a culture that outlasts him. An empire is not built by conquering new lands. It is built by exporting your operating system. You do not build an empire by commanding soldiers. You build it by forging new kings. Your legacy will not be the body you built for yourself, but the number of men you teach to build their own. Your 18th directive, the Legacy Protocol. 1. Identify a candidate, someone who is where you were 6 months ago, competent but weak, potential buried under layers of mediocrity. You have already identified him. David. 2. You will not mentor him. Mentorship is what the system sells. It is soft. You will take him as your protégé, your apprentice. You will forge him. 3. Export the protocol. You will apply the Dobson Mindshift to LifeShift protocol to his professional life. You will conduct an assessment of his workflow. You will institute a scorched earth protocol on his time-wasting tasks. You will give him a protein mandate, a single high-leverage project that becomes his non-negotiable focus. You will give him clear, measurable objectives and demand ruthless honesty in his progress reports. Mark will tell you it's a waste of time. He will tell you some men can't be forged. He is your minister of war, and his duty is to see threats. Your duty as king is to see potential where others see only weakness. This is the true test of your identity as the architect. A craftsman can build a perfect house for himself. An architect can design a city that empowers thousands. Stop building your house. Start designing your city. HD. The next day, Leo called David into his office. David shuffled in, avoiding eye contact, the physical embodiment of the phrase, "I'm sorry for taking up space." David, Leo began, his voice calm and direct. Your raw data analysis is the best in this department, but your output is in the bottom 20%. Why? David stammered, his face flushing. I get caught up in a lot of the cross-departmental requests. The noise, Leo said, cutting through the excuse. From now on, you work for me. Only for me. All other requests are to be forwarded to my desk. That's your scorched earth. Now for your protein mandate. Leo turned to the whiteboard. This is the new server allocation project Mark identified. It's complex and it's critical. It's your sole focus. I don't care if the building is on fire. Your job is this project. I want a 1% progress report on my desk at the end of every day. Clear? David looked from the whiteboard to Leo, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and, for the first time, a flicker of purpose. Yes, sir, he whispered. Leo left his office and walked past Mark's desk. Wasting your time, Mark said without looking up from his screen. The kid's a ghost. I was a ghost, Leo replied, not breaking his stride, and ghosts can learn to haunt. He went to the gym that night, a new energy coursing through him. He was no longer just forging steel, he was building an army. And it was the most power he had ever felt. Chapter 20, The Final Conquest, Dominating All Arenas. 1 year, 365 days since he first pressed Begin Assessment. Leo stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive boardroom, looking down at the city below. He was no longer 287 pounds of soft apathy. He was 225 pounds of disciplined force. He wore a tailored suit that fit the powerful V-shape of his torso, a silent testament to a year of war waged in the gym. Today was not just another battle, it was the final conquest. He and his team, his empire, had developed a new predictive data integrity model that would save the company millions. He wasn't just the head of data integrity, he was an architect of the company's future. Today, he was presenting it to the CEO and the entire executive board. Mark, now his loyal and brutally honest deputy, stood beside him, reviewing the slides on a tablet. They're going to come at you on the implementation cost, Mark said, his default cynicism now a valuable strategic tool. Be ready. David, no longer a ghost, but a confident junior architect of the system, nodded in agreement. My data on long-term savings is solid, Leo. Don't let them rush you past slide 7. This was his legacy in action. He hadn't just mentored them, he had forged them. When the board filed in, the air crackled with the pressure of money and power. Leo felt the familiar spike of adrenaline. He saw the ghosts of his past, the dismissive looks from men like Sarah's boyfriend, the quiet contempt he used to face daily. But they were just ghosts. He was real. He took a single, deliberate, tactical breath. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. He was in the eye of the storm. He didn't present a project. He laid out a campaign. He spoke not of features, but of objectives. He used the language of the protocol, KPIs, 1% gains, strategic assets. He commanded the room not with volume, but with an unshakable data-driven clarity. The CFO, a notoriously aggressive man named Garrett, tried to ambush him. This all sounds great, Leo, but the upfront cost is astronomical. How can you justify this in a down quarter? The old Leo would have crumbled. The architect simply held his ground. You're looking at it as a cost, Garrett, Leo said, his voice calm and even. That's a soldier's perspective. A king sees it as an investment in armor. The data on slide 7, which my analyst David prepared, shows that this system isn't a cost center. It's a profit engine that will pay for itself in 3 quarters and save us an estimated 8 figures over the next 5 years. The cost isn't implementing this. The cost is not implementing this. He had taken the grenade and thrown it back, bigger and more powerful. The CEO leaned forward, a slow smile spreading across his face. The battle was won. That night, there was no email from Dobson. There didn't need to be. Leo and Maya stood on the same hill where he had nearly broken during his pattern-interrupt sprints months ago. The city lights spread out below them like a conquered territory. We did it, he said, his voice quiet. He wasn't talking about the presentation, he was talking about everything. You did it, Maya corrected gently, taking his hand. You were the one who took the first step. He looked at her, this powerful, intelligent woman who had become the queen to his king, his partner in building an empire. The final conquest wasn't in the boardroom. It was right here. It was the calm, quiet confidence to build a life, not just a body or a career. The first campaign is over, he said, pulling her close. Now we build the dynasty. He pulled a small black box from his pocket. He didn't kneel. A king doesn't kneel. He stood before her, an equal, and opened the box. This isn't just a proposal, he said, his voice steady. This is a strategic alliance. I'm the architect, but you're the master builder. Let's build an empire together. Maya's eyes, bright with unshed tears, met his. Objective accepted, Commander. Later that night, Leo sat at his desk and typed one final report to the man who had started it all. He kept it short, a summary of the day's victory and the new lifelong mission he had just accepted. He ended it with 2 words: empire building. The reply came moments later, the last he would ever receive. The war is never over, it just gets bigger. Welcome to the 1%. Epilogue: the war is never over. 5 years later. Leo stood in his corner office, a space that overlooked the sprawling city he now considered his kingdom. He was the Vice President of Strategic Analytics, a title he had forged himself. He was 230 pounds, but it was the dense, powerful weight of a man who squatted over 400 pounds for reps. The suit he wore was the same size as the one from his big presentation 5 years ago, but it fit differently. It was the armor of a king, not a contender. On the massive whiteboard that dominated one wall, the 2 columns remained. On the left, corporate KPIs for his entire division. On the right, his personal protocols, still tracked with the same ruthless honesty. The foundation was the foundation. There was a knock on the door. You wanted to see me, Leo? David walked in. The ghost was long gone. In his place stood the department's new head of data integrity. He carried himself with a quiet confidence, his frame solid and disciplined. He had lost 60 pounds over 2 years, not under Dobson's orders, but under Leo's. "Final debrief," Leo said, gesturing to a chair. "You're taking over the team tomorrow. Are you ready?" "I am," David said, his voice steady. "Good. Because your new team is going to test you. They will see you as the man you were, not the man you are. They will throw grenades to see if you'll fall on them like a soldier or command the situation like a king." Leo picked up a small, black, leather-bound notebook from his desk and slid it across the polished wood. "This was my logbook from my first year," he said. "My war room. Every failure, every victory. It's a map of the territory you're about to enter." David took the book with a reverence that surprised Leo. "Dobson, the man who trained me, was a scout," Leo continued. "He found the path. My job was to be an architect, to take his blueprint and build something with it. Your job now is to be an emperor. Take the system we've built here and expand it. Find the next you, find the next me, forge them, build your own council. That's how the empire grows." David nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. This wasn't a promotion. It was a coronation. "One last directive," Leo said, a faint smile touching his lips. "I'm not your commander anymore. You are. Go draw your own map." David stood, shook Leo's hand firmly, and walked out, the logbook held like a weapon. Leo watched him go, a profound sense of momentum filling the room. He had not just built a career, he had built a legacy. His phone buzzed. A picture from Maya. It was their 3-year-old son, standing in the middle of the living room, holding one of Maya's small 5-pound dumbbells over his head, a look of fierce, triumphant concentration on his face. The caption read, "The dynasty continues." Leo smiled. He looked out the window at the endless city. At the millions of lights, each one a tiny war being fought in quiet desperation. He had won his. He had taught others to win theirs. And now he was building a family, a pack, a dynasty that would carry the code forward. He had never met Horace Dobson. He had never needed to. Dobson wasn't a person. He was a protocol, an operating system for victory. And as Leo looked out at the horizon, he knew the final directive was the only one that truly mattered. The war is never over. It just gets bigger. And he was ready for the next campaign.